Howdy, and welcome to the Red Dirt Aggie Show. I'm Brian, the Red Dirt Aggie, here with Jon Kott from the Jon Kott Band. I hope I said that right.
You did,
Think
man.
about it.
Yeah. I get Jon Knott all the time, so you did good.
Yeah, Jon Kott's better than Jon Mott, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Literally, I swear, not a day goes by that somebody doesn't say my name the wrong way. So you did great.
Maybe they got the applesauce on the brain, right?
It is. It's whatever is that the jam. The people that made the Knott's Berries, they've got me.
Yeah, man. Well, so you know what? Why don't you? I want to give you a minute. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience and just say, a little bit about where you're from. What kind of got you into music in the first place, too.
Yeah. So I'm right now I'm in Katy, Texas. That's where I live these days. I'm from San Antonio, born and raised, but I moved around the country quite a bit. Went up to Detroit for a while and spent some time up there. Kind of got my music career off the ground up there, and then moved down to the Panhandle of Florida, Pensacola, Florida. Spent a little time there, and then moved to Houston area, and now just kind of been bouncing around the Houston area for about the last 8 years. Music to me, man, my dad was a classical guitar player growing up, and he had a killer record collection. So as a kid, Sundays was pretty awesome because it was sitting at home and him playing his guitar and us listening to records. And so, I mean, that was the initial desire to be a musician, was watching him create on that guitar. Was, as a kid, you're like, holy crap, that's so cool. And the kind of music he was listening to, like 70s country and 70s, like I guess now yacht rock kind of stuff almost, it was chill, it was cool. I'm pretty sure he was smoking weed or high at that point too, because he was loving it and I was loving it, and I was sober. I was a kid, so it definitely stirred something in me. And then, like I said, when I moved up into Michigan, I was in my late teens and started playing music. And Detroit had a killer music scene, so it wasn't hard. It didn't take much to stir me to move into that scene. And it's just been, as I like to say all the time, it's been a winding road full of wrong turns and right turns. But I mean, I'm getting there. I'm having fun the entire damn time, man.
Well, yeah, and from what I understand too, Jon Kott Band, this thing on your own here, this isn't your first band, right?
No.
Involved in another one before this, right?
A couple. The first band, the very initial thing was Uncle Booby, and that was this crazy like rockabilly country rockin' band. It was awesome. It was fun, and that was a great band. And then it moved into Rooster, and Rooster was more of it still had that southern cut to it, but it was more of a rock band. That was the band that we showcased for Maverick Records with, and they were the first ones that were always like, y'all are just too country for rock, and you're too country for rock, you're too rock for country, kind of right in the middle. And it's funny, now that seems like that's what's everything that you hear, but when we were trying to do it, it was too soon. So no. And now we're just doing Jon Kott Band.
Well, and it's funny because the whole Texas music scene, that's exactly what it is now. That's what's blowing up. Look at guys like Trady Oak and everything else, where it's all like basically just rock.
It is. It's rock with kind of rednecky dude singing it. It's just Trust me, back then when we were in Michigan, like Cross Canadian was blowing up, and we would go out, we'd play Alabama and stuff like that, and people were like, what is this? What is? I was like, we gotta get back down south, man. They won't appreciate this stuff up here.
Yeah. You gotta get back down where there's some red dirt.
Yeah,
for sure. But what's maybe the hardest part of being a musician, or some of those challenges that people maybe don't think about on a daily basis?
I mean, I think it's changed. It's evolved quite a bit over the time for me. Nowadays, I've got a 6-year-old, so that's a big part of it is FaceTime, the weekends with Daddy and stuff like that. Being on the road, wanting to get back home. Wanting to stick around at the end of a show to say hi to everybody that came out and thank them, and sell shirts and do all that kind of stuff, but at the same time wanting to get in your truck and go home immediately so you could be there with the kid. Stuff like that, that's probably the hard stuff these days. Traveling is tough, man, but man, over the years, I guess probably the same thing that most musicians have. It's just trying to make it work, trying to find guys that can devote enough time to it and be able to pay their bills, but be able to devote enough time to that. It's tough, man. It's tough to do, but we've been fortunate. I've been fortunate to have just never really had to fight for gigs, I guess. I don't want to try to sound cocky or anything like that. It's just that we've always done a good enough job that the gigs always came back and the word spread. So we've been really fortunate for years to have plenty of work thrown at us. So definitely makes it easier. But these days, being away from home is probably the hardest part of it.
Well, yeah. And, I think, part of that being invited back places and stuff, I would say has a lot to do with being professional, and like taking care of what you need to take care of and stuff. And
for sure.
As well as putting on a good show and everything, like I'm sure y'all do. But I want to give a shout out to whoever contacted me initially for the podcast, who represents y'all, was very professional. He sent over a whole little packet and everything for me. And
Russ.
yes, and
Yeah,
he's
Russ.
a fighting Texas Aggie himself. So
He is.
I give
He's
him a
a
shout
great
out.
dude. He's a great dude. He that man will do anything for us. And I mean, if you're in his circle of people, you're set. He's a great dude. Russ is a great man.
Yeah, so shout out to Russ
The man.
for sure. But and I know a little bit about that now. Trying to book shows and stuff. It's a lot of work. It's
It
fun,
is.
but it's a lot of work too. A lot of communication, a lot of contacting people and stuff. But
Relationships, man. It's a big part of this whole thing. I mean, and
oh,
that
who you know?
it's so true. And people don't want to play that game. They're going to find out the hard way. But it is a
Yeah,
huge who you know in relationships game.
that's a big part of really anything too.
Sure, absolutely. It's a business,
For
man.
sure. But yeah. Now we talked about the challenges and the hardest part of being a musician, but what's your absolute favorite part? What's the best part?
That's tough. I mean, there's a lot of those too. Writing music. You write music too. I don't know if do you play and write?
No, I'm just a huge fan, man.
Gotcha.
Honestly.
So
Just fell in
anyone
love
that
with the
writes
scene.
it, well, people that write it and know it, they know there's those aha moments and those when you can make your own hair stand up on your arm, one of those kind of things. When it's
Yeah.
something, when you hit a melody that you're like, holy crap, that just came out of me. That melody's mine. You wrote something that sounds so cool and it stirs something in you. That's probably there's no drug that I've yet to find. Not that I'm actively looking, but there's nothing that I can find that quite does that. That's a feeling. Writing something like that and singing it and getting blessed enough if you can at one point to see other people singing it with the same feeling inside of them. That's great. So I guess that's it. Like writing music to me, not all of it. Definitely not all not all the time is it good, but those ones that you spin out that give you the chills. That's the stuff that is worth to me.
Yeah, and the closest thing I would say that I can relate to that with. I'm trying to find the words. The way I can relate to that with is like going out and capturing footage at shows or something, and I see you get that perfect angle or that perfect like shot or something, and I watch it back and I'm like, man, that's
Yeah,
awesome. I got that shot. Like
that's the
yeah,
one. Yeah, that's
like
it.
I was.
I've seen the photographers doing it. You know it.
And like I was up there at Henry's last weekend for Montana, and I got man a badass like shot of their guitar player like hitting a solo on the little jetty coming out. I just put it on social media today, but I was like I got that same kind of feeling. I'm like, oh my god, like I captured that. That's awesome.
That's it. That's the feeling.
And that's him. I'm sure he feels the same way watching it back. Like I'm a badass, but
Yeah, it is.
I love that, man. And yeah, just the being able to create that same feeling in someone else when they're listening to your song too.
That's huge, huge. Like seeing people sing words back to you that that means so much to you. It's all. If you can get if you can get something that you can see that true emotion in that person's face because it
Yeah.
really hit them, it really connected with them, dude. Come on, that's it. Yeah.
Makes all that hard work and everything worth it.
Absolutely, for sure. It makes all the bad songs that you had to throw away that you were going to quit over makes it all worthwhile.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's on that topic of songwriting and stuff too. What's your favorite song that you've ever written, even if it's not out?
So yeah, there's so many inside of me right now that we're working on to get done that are probably going to be my favorites. But I honestly think, and it's weird because the song just didn't do as well as we thought it would. But No Paradise, that first one we put out, and I don't mean to say it didn't do good. It's doing great. It's on the Texas Country playlist on Spotify, it's been over a year. It's been on that playlist. That's a hard thing to get on one of those editorial playlists.
Yeah.
So we're stoked and blessed to be on that. So they must have found some reason to put on it. That's probably my favorite song just because I wrote that in the beginning of COVID lockdown. And it was one of those times where I thought, as a musician, we all thought we were done. We're like, this is it.
Right.
I got to go find a job. And that song, I don't think you know if you've heard it, but it's about being stuck with me. And it was just about my poor wife being stuck in the house with me. And we made it. But that song, definitely, I think that's the best song I've ever written. Personally.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the thing with COVID is, it affected the whole music industry in so many ways. Obviously a big, huge, like, struggle financially for everyone involved, like, especially in independent music and everything like that during that time. But the only positive I could see, maybe a couple of positive things. One, like, there's probably so much music that came out of that time, though, because everyone was just stuck at home
Definitely.
writing. And
so much.
Because right after we came out of that, and stuff started opening up more, you started seeing so much music just getting put out, and I was like, like, well, at least that's cool. Now we're gonna have a lot of more music and a lot more shows being played, and then people got more comfortable doing live streams and stuff too, which I love
Yeah.
seeing people go live and just like play a few songs on the guitar.
Absolutely.
Too.
It changed so much stuff, man.
Yeah.
Strangely, you brought that up. We were just talking about it. A buddy of mine, he's a photographer actually too, how he was telling me, he's like, we have COVID to thank for Treaty Oak Revival. And I was like, well, they were out before. And he goes, yeah, but he was trying to, I don't know, I didn't fact check this, but he was claiming that they had their first show scheduled right before, I guess, it hit, and that when they locked down was whenever they wrote that first album with No Vacancy and all this stuff. I was like, really? I mean, like I said, I haven't fact checked it, but he's like, we have COVID to thank for that album. If that's true, man, that's a good reason to thank it, because that first album they came out with is smoking.
Yeah, and then this most recent one they just put out too. It's like I haven't been able to stop listening to it, man. I went and saw them at Harry's recently too, and that was probably the wildest show I've been to there. The crowd was pretty rowdy too, but
Everywhere they go, everywhere they go.
I know they're selling out everywhere they go, and everyone's just having a blast. So.
Honestly, like the crazy thing for us, like we were so stoked when we saw Co-Wetzel blow up. We were just like, holy!
Yeah.
We watched that whole thing. We just watched from the sidelines, going, that dude, something's going on, and the way that he did it so fast. And granted, he had his years where he, put his legwork in, but when it started that atmospheric rise, it was. Yeah. And I feel like that's exactly what we're watching with Treaty Oak. Like Treaty Oak is going real fast, man. I don't even know if they can. I don't even know if they're catching what's happening, because it's so fast.
Yeah, and it was awesome, man. I had them on here actually about just a few weeks before that most recent album came out, and I don't know if I'll ever get it back again now.
Right, right.
Because they, now that the album's out, man, they were already like this. The album,
it's through the roof. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts, and they're the nicest people too. They sat there and talked to me for an hour and a half, but
they seem humble. They seem really cool, dude. And I don't think they're
really
gonna lose that.
Chill and laid back, and a lot of fun to be around, I would imagine too. But as a musician, you're on the road a lot, like you say. So I have to ask, you go into a gas station, what's your go-to gas station snack?
I mean, we used to be a Buc-ee's guys, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Buc-ee's, but now Buc-ee's is just too much of a hassle to get in and out of, if you ask me. It used to
like
be
a whole city in there.
It is. It's a fight to get in and out of the place. And I mean, I can't tell you the last time I've gone into one of those Buc-ee's and the bathroom was actually free. Like you gotta wait to get it. Yeah, I mean, and I did just have a terrible experience with the Flying J. I got sick for like 2 weeks off of eating some truck stop food, so I won't be going to Flying J anymore. How about that? I can tell you 2 that I won't go to right now. Probably won't see me in a Buc-ee's, and you won't see me in a Flying J.
Oh man, no Buc-ee's. Jon Kott.
No, I mean, no, and
I'm plastering it everywhere.
I live right behind a Buc-ee's, and I go to it to get my car washed, truck washed. I get the gas, I get all that. It's just going inside is not.
And they do have some of the better gas prices around too, though.
They do, and their car wash is killer.
Yeah,
it's a nice big car wash
too, and they got the vacuums and everything out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so what's your snack then?
I'm a beef jerky man. I mean, when I'm on the road, it's jerky, and I drink an obscene amount of caffeine. I mean, I can drink coffee all day and all night, and Red Bulls and energy drinks, and I drink probably a pretty dangerous amount of caffeine a day. So if that's the road. The road for me is beef jerky and caffeine. And on the weekends, there's some Jaeger involved. So yeah.
I like those big Slim Jims with the little cheese too.
They're paired up for you.
Right, they're paired up for you, and it's like, well, damn, there's a nice little meal right there.
They were thinking.
Yeah.
Although it does make me think every time I get those. Yeah, why is that cheese on the counter? Why is it not inside of a cooler?
Yeah, like what is that cheese?
Do that.
Send that to be refrigerated.
How'd you do that? That's scary, but it is good.
Yeah, but it does taste damn good. Oh man, well, while we're on food, the beans belong in chili.
That is a tough one, because I'm a Texan and they do not. But when I make chili, I like beans in it. But that's not what Texas chili is. I get it.
And I think that's the right answer. It's good with beans in it, but the whole everyone in Texas is like, no, you can't put beans in it unless you're Rich O'Toole.
No, he's the one that gets away with it.
Rich O'Toole's like, yes, you need beans. So the origin of the question is, he was our first guest ever on here, and of course he has this whole like crusade of being like beans and chili. Put beans in chili. He likes to stir the pot on a lot of things, but
pun intended.
That's but that's one of them.
You need to get him and William Clark Green together then, because I've seen some interviews with William Clark Green, and he is a stout other side of that argument, man.
And I think they've had their beef on Twitter over that before.
Oh, it's great. I got to find it then.
And of course, I talked to him all about the whole like Zach Bryan and him, like that one song that like sounded the same.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there was a whole. He gave his whole side of that whole thing. And I was like, that's pretty funny. It was a whole thing. But
Have you had what's his name on the William Clark on?
I have not, but I would love to
He's
get
a
him on.
beast. He's a
Yeah,
beast. He's one of those guys that I can listen to at any point. Like when I'm talking about my Texas country music addictions, he's high on that list.
yeah, he's up there for sure. He's one of the legends
So
right now
good,
in the scene.
so good.
So I saw
Yeah.
that your fiddle player has 3 fingers, man. How did that happen?
Old Buckshot.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've really gotten a straight answer out of him as to how that happened. He's one of those dudes that every time someone asks him, you hear a
You get a
different
different
response.
story.
I just don't know. I think he was born like that.
Yeah.
Which is interesting that when you're born like that, that you would think to pick up an instrument that requires as many fingers moving as possible. But he's a killer fiddle player, obviously. I mean, he's a fantastic. We only get to use him when we get to, when we're in the studio, or we can catch him when he's not on the road with Kim Carson or someone else. He's one of those guys that when he gets home, if you don't catch him real quick to get him on the road with you, he's gone with someone else kind of a guy. But I can't tell you exactly how he lost his finger. I don't think he's ever really told me.
Which hand is it? Is it the one that's up here, or is it?
It's the fretboard hand.
It's the one that's got 3 fingers. Oh yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah, he's doing
that's
he's doing all
impressive as
he's
hell.
doing all that work with
Man,
one less finger.
that's impressive as hell.
Yeah, right.
But man, that's
His name is Buckshot Willie, so maybe we should just put those together. Maybe he
Yeah.
shot his finger off or
I
something.
mean, that's a solid possibility too. You got
It
a name like
is.
Buckshot Willie. You've definitely got some stories.
You think?
But speaking of wild stories, what's your wildest story from the road that you
Oh,
rode?
I don't know if we should tell that. Are we? I don't know who's going to see this. I mean, there's lots of them. I can tell you that this right off the top of my head, not the wildest, but a very wild one that just happened this last weekend. I was in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. We were actually performing in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, Friday and Saturday. But then Saturday we went over to Ocean Springs to shoot a music video for this new song I've got coming out with this guy Sam Donald called Three Sheets. The song's all about what it sounds like. It's about getting torn up.
Sure.
And I had a show from 7 to 11 that night, and I knew going into this that we were going to have to stage drinking, but that did not happen whatsoever. We got to that bar at 10 a.m., and by noon, I was 4 crown shots in and 4 or 5 beers. I was in trouble. We were all in trouble, and it continued to, it was people that know me and see this, they're going to be like, come on, John, you drink all, you know how to handle yourself. That's part of your show is drinking, but there's never a time where I drink before a show. I drink a little bit before the first set, but I can't drink hours before a show. And I found myself 3 sheets. But yeah, it was a rough day. I don't know. That's on the top of my head. Another one would be when we got canceled from a really bad storm that came through. So we got completely hammered, and somehow I ended up with my wife's name tattooed on my left ass cheek. There's lots of stories like that that come through. Just a couple things like that.
Hey, but it was your wife's name, so it's fine.
And it was spelt right.
And it was
Yeah.
spelled right, so yeah.
Yeah, everything was
worked out
good. I made a good choice that night, I guess.
good.
Yeah, I would probably venture to say if there were some other stories that were better than those, I wouldn't remember them. But I'm sure some other people could tell you better stories than I can about them.
Yeah, sometimes the best ones you don't remember all the way, right?
That's probably where it's at. Yeah.
Well, what's your ultimate goal as a musician? Do you have like a dream venue you want to play at? Do you have like a goal?
Yeah, there's multiple. You said it. Green's one of them. Billy Bob's is a huge one. I mean, Billy Bob's that's the mecca. Like as a kid growing up, I've watched all the stuff that was going on there, and that's the arenas and stuff like that would be fun. I did a bunch of cool amphitheaters and arenas back in the day, not as a headliner, but as an opener. But
Right.
Billy Bob's is definitely that's the one. If I could ever get on that stage, that'll probably be, and I say it'll be enough, but it won't. There'll always be something. That one's at the top of my list.
Yeah, man. It's such a massive place too. Really.
It's going in there, you get the chills. I mean, like the hands of fame and all the stuff when you go through there, and back in the guitar bar back there and seeing Cody's guitar all smashed up, all that stuff that's going on in there.
Do you have like an ultimate goal for your whole career? Or are you just kind of like, I'm already doing the goal?
I don't know. Like I said, it's kind of like that same response to the what venues, or my bucket. I feel like every time I've reached one of my goals, it just creates more goals for me. I'm one of those dudes that's just never going to be satisfied. So I feel great where I'm at right now. Like I've got, like I I said, I've got a great band right now. Every time we perform, I feel great about what's happened. Shows come in, new venues are still knocking on our doors every week. I'm writing some of the best music I think I've personally ever written in my life, and it just kind of keeps coming. So there's something I've opened up something inside of me, and my family's killer. Everything seems to be great. I'm not knocking on some wood that I'm not going to do something wrong here, but everything's good. I definitely have no intention of stopping right now or slowing down. I'm going to keep going. I would love it if the shows just got bigger. Shows got bigger and songs got bigger, and you know, the numbers on Spotify and stuff kept growing. It's all I really would like to do.
Well, yeah, and it's like I feel like, you know, most of the time, you know, you ask a musician what's your ultimate goal for your career, they're going to be like, well, to be able to keep making money and playing music for as long as I can and hope that it grows, and if it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You know,
Right.
at least I'm making music and you have a career out of it. You know, that's awesome.
It's not an easy thing to do, man. I've watched so many guys come and go. It's crazy. You know,
Yeah.
so like I said, we're blessed to be here right now, like to still be going and to still be rising, even if it may not be at the meteoric rise that some people are. We're still rising, which is great.
Before we go, you got any music coming up? Any announcements you want to put out there?
That song I just put out with, or just recorded, and we just got the video done for. It's called Three Sheets, and that's with Sam Donald. You probably don't know who he is right now, but he just exploded online over the last few months, and so he is probably going to be a massive person. Brian, I appreciate you taking time to do this for me, man. It was fun.
This has been the Red Dirt Aggie Show. I'm Brian the Red Dirt Aggie. That over there is Jon Kott. As always, gig 'em and God bless, and we'll see you next time.